FOS TV is brought to you by the Lion's Den. The Den always has been and always will be about enjoying family and friends in an environment steeped in Happy Valley tradition. So come back to the Den, the perfect place to recall old memories while creating new ones.
Mark Brennan here with another FightOnState.com wrap-up of the Joe Paterno press conference, joined this week by Neil Rudel. A little housekeeping. Obviously, Neil, we lost our dear friend Pat Boland, who used to do these with us last year. We miss him a lot. I mean, it was so sad to see what happened to him over the summer. But we're moving on. And this season, I'm going to have some different people from the beat. So I figured I would start at the bottom of the beat with Neil Rudel. I'm sorry. Neil Rudel's been covering Penn State football longer than anybody. And Neil, it's another season. Did not get a lot of answers out of Joe today. I think the question, two questions on everybody's mind. Number one, who's going to be the starting quarterback? Number two, what's Joe's situation? Doesn't look like we have a real answer on the starting quarterback thing.
No, and he avoided, really didn't give any kind of definitive, wouldn't even say whether they've picked the starter yet or decided. I'm just wondering if they're going to explain to both quarterbacks how they're going to be used, because I think obviously Bolden went into late in the year under the impression he was going to get into some of these games, and I think when he didn't, the frustration really bubbled over. So I cannot imagine if they start him and they don't tell McGloin that you're going to play in the second quarter, or this is. I think defining the roles would really help, no matter what the answers are. Yeah,
I don't know that it's that big of a deal going into Indiana State. I mean, he said both guys are going to play. I really do think you have to settle on a starter going into Alabama. And you know what? Maybe this is a little bit of gamesmanship. We talked about it on our Nitwit show earlier this week. Maybe this is an instance where Penn State's looking at it as, hey, why not force the Crimson Tide to prepare for both quarterbacks? And I think that would make sense. On to story number two. Joe said he thinks he's 50-50 for being on the sideline. I tweeted, I would put the odds at 100-1 against it. There is no way he's going to be on the sideline, and that's not a knock on him. I mean, but he was still, he came in today walking with a cane, very gingerly, very difficult for him even to sit down. I just don't see it happening.
I don't either. I don't even see a real reason for it against Indiana State at this stage of the game. This is really a glorified scrimmage. He was up there upstairs for the blue-white game. Hopefully they'll get better weather Saturday than they have for that game. One image to me coming out, you have Fran Fisher in the back of the room, and Fran, it's great to see him every year, every week he still comes in, but he has a cane. And here Joe came out with a cane. Pat Little from the Associated Press, as usual, was here to shoot the press conference. I don't know if he got the two of them, but that would have been a neat picture.
Yeah, I mean, two living legends, obviously. Fran looks like he knew when to get out. I'm not so sure about Joe. But, hey, I'll give Joe this. He really seems to have a finger on what was wrong with the program last year. He took a lot of blame himself, and one thing that he's been harping on, and he did it again today, was about a lack of toughness from that team last year. And that's one of the things in this game. Listen, who knows what the final score is going to be, but I think in these first couple of weeks, I really want to see more toughness, and he was really driving home that point about how this team has to be tougher. And to me, say what you will about Joe, but as I look back on last season, that was the glaring issue for this team.
Yeah, and I mean, he made it clear they were not satisfied in any way with how they wound up, how they coached, how they played, and that their level of, their aspirations, and Chima Coley said it after the press conference, their goals are still to win the Big Ten and win the national championship. So you may say it's unrealistic, but the fact that they still grasp at those, I think, is admirable.
Yeah, speaking of Chima Coley, Joe said that there's been a vote made on the captains, but surprise, surprise, they're not going to reveal who they are till later this week. I really, if I had to take a guess, I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Chima Coley, if they're going by player votes, he's such a personable guy, and just a sense of humor, obviously very intelligent. His dad's a Fulbright scholar. I would not be surprised if he's one of the guys. Over on defense, there's just such a wide range of veteran players to choose from, so I think they're going to be okay there. Joe had mentioned 15 or so seniors stopped by his house last week. I also think that to talk about leadership, to talk about these things, I think that was a positive too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things you're looking for, it is amazing. I mean, you have a weekly press conference here, and mainly it's to not announce or confirm anything.
Right.
You know, you're not going to confirm Joe's status. You're not going to confirm who the quarterback. You don't want to tell anybody who the captains are. So then you'll probably, the fax machine is working now that we've all been dispersed to let us know what's going to happen. But I think you're looking to cover offense and defense. You may be looking to cover more than one captain on each side, because I think that was Joe's thing. Maybe not so sure that he wanted to anoint two people to lead this team right now. Even go with game captains. So I would expect probably 4 captains, and usually it covers offense, defense, and probably, you know, race is an issue. You know, you want to make sure that you have all bases covered.
Yeah, Nick Suke mentioned the possibility, as you mentioned, of game captains, which again, I think it would be a good idea. Some of the real pressing issues going into this first game, special teams. You know, Farrah looks like from what we understand, we've been told he's going to be out for 2 games. That leaves a void at punter. Butterworth did a decent job last year, but I think where it really hurts is on the kickoffs. I mean, he was a weapon as a kickoff specialist. And, you know, at place kicker, they have Evan Lewis listed as the first team. I will be shocked. And this isn't a knock on Evan Lewis. He's a great all-around athlete, but if you're spending a scholarship on a kid like Ficken, I think he's going to be the guy. And I think the only reason he's not on the depth chart is because he's a true freshman. But those are 2 real key areas where you're, you know, if Ficken is the kickoff guy and handling field goals, 2 real key areas.
And Joe has showed us over the years that he's not going to hurt the team with some disciplinary issues, especially if he feels against an Alabama that he's going to need Farrah. So I think how quickly Farrah is coming back from whatever suspension and the jam that he got into will depend on how well the other guys play.
Yeah, Stephon Green, Joe talked about him, but did not give a lot of details. Just basically said that what I got from it was that Stephon Green jumped through the hoops that Joe wanted him to jump through. He's back with the team. I really don't get a good feel for where he's going to fit in at this point, though, because they seem pretty solid at running back.
Yeah, I would think he'll fit in first at some point on special teams, because he was a guy that brought some energy and leadership to the special teams, you know, even on coverage.
As a veteran, anything else jump out at you from Joe's press conference today? His mood was really good. I like, you know, he seemed like he was joking around a little bit about the cane and whatnot. He seemed to be in really good spirits.
You know, I thought Jed Donahue, asked a good question about opening day. And after 62 years, how special is it? And Joe doesn't seem like he's lost any enthusiasm. He said driving over here, he couldn't believe it's been 62 years. So they kind of, he went a little bit nostalgic, which I always kind of like. And you can see why he stayed in it this long.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to give a little plug for the Nitwits. Neil and I have been doing this show for this is our 14th season. It's unbelievable. It's on WTAJ in Altoona, the CBS affiliate, also available at the AltoonaMirror.com. We link to it from Fight on State. We break down the games every single week. It's usually on Sunday after the late local news on the CBS affiliate, sometimes a little bit late, but if you can't catch it there, you can catch it online. Just wanted to give a plug because that's been fun with you, me, Mike Irwin. There are some people on our message boards getting all riled up about, oh man, those guys are really going at it. Listen, we may get into it on the air, but it's fun. Hey, we're friends, but if you can't argue about Penn State football, what can you argue about?
We've had a lot of fun over the years with that show, and you and I made a lot of trips together for 20 plus years, and you know,
long trips,
I've enjoyed
20 long
almost
years.
Every minute of it.
Well, I appreciate it, Neil. We'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in, folks.